Thanks very much. I think what I've done all my life is just studied the obvious, just study obvious things like smoking. And it turns out if you study obvious things, then, you find out things that do change the world, make things a bit better, but none of it's the work of genius. I think I've just been lucky in the problems that I've studied. Actually, Prabhat said that 99% of the world is not British, so I tried to do 99% of my world outside Britain. But remember, 99.5% of the world is not Canadian. So you lot, with all your public health skills, had better actually go and do a lot of things in a lot of other countries as well. I mean, Canada's had a tradition of doing a lot for the world, and I hope that a lot of you will choose to continue that tradition. And even more amazing statistic, actually, is that 95% of the world is not American. But what I've found, if you read about what's happening in the world, you read about the various epidemics, the various problems that are happening, then we tend to read about all the bad things. But it's extraordinary the extent to which premature death is disappearing. I mean, a reasonable aim for 2030 would be that we could finish up halving under 50 mortality. If we took the 2010 risks of dying before you're 50, well, we could easily actually halve that by 2030 just by keeping on the way we are. Death rates are going down. We talk about an epidemic of non-communicable disease, but actually death rates are going down. The death rates from heart attack, from cancer, from stroke, from chronic lung disease worldwide, on average, things are going down. There's some horrible places where things are going up. But if you look over a period of decades, we've never actually had the longevity we've had before. Worldwide life expectancy is more than 70 years now. And it's healthcare professionals like you that make a difference. It's also the sanitary engineers, of course, and it's the people who try to reduce the number of wars. And sometimes it succeeds, sometimes it doesn't. Look at it. But overall, you can think that the 20th century was the century of the dead. We had 200 million dead in wars and famines caused by war. But actually, it's probably the century of life. And if you look at the extraordinary changes in child mortality, it's gone down since the middle of the 20th century. Just the risk that a child's going to die before they're 5 has gone down from about 25% of all the kids in the world down to 5%. Things are getting better. So it's a good job you're graduating now while there's still something to do. Anyway, I hope some of you go into research. Research is fun, but I hope lots of you go into looking after patients, because I'm going to be a patient sometime soon. And when I'm a patient, I don't want to be confronted with epidemiologists. I want to be confronted with competent, nurses and doctors and things like that. I think overall I've been lucky in what I've happened to work on, and I think that it was because the university I was at, the University of Oxford, about 40 years ago, I was just given a job for life and told, okay, you may want to do some big project, in which case you've got to raise money, but you've got lifelong security. I don't know whether this should be done. I really don't know whether it should be done. When the old Soviet academies just were secure and just gave out money, according to the whims of the leaders, it didn't work. It was a bit sterile. But there ought to be some bits of academic life, some bits of research, which are, in a way, protected from always being evaluated all the time. I mean, so much time is wasted and so much dishonesty is involved and hypocrisy in always pursuing grants. And sometimes you just need the luck of protecting some people. And I don't know how those people should be chosen, but I hope that the university system somehow does continue to have some people protected from eternally being harassed by being evaluated and having to report on what they're doing all the time. Because that's everything I've ever done that I think was worthwhile. As I said, all I've done is studied the obvious. Would never have got through review committees. They'd have said, what's the point in this? You're not going to learn anything new. We all know that smoking kills people, but actually, we did get some new things. And we studied treatments that were fairly obvious and just showed that you get moderate improvements. Well, you get moderate improvements in the treatment of millions of patients, and that's good. You finish up avoiding tens of thousands of deaths. But I don't know. There needs to be some kind of plurality in the way in which we fund things. And the other thing that I would like to make a plea for, though I don't think it's exactly a plea to you new graduates, is I think that somehow we are overemphasizing, in a way, privacy of records to the point where it's very difficult to do serious medical research. You know, if somehow there was a sort of bang, the ceiling collapsed down and some kind of toxic chemical got released here, and we want to know what happens to you all over the next, few decades, are you going to get cancer or not? Well, with the present laws on privacy, it would be very, very difficult to do it. Whereas if the same accident happened in Oxford, we could just send the names off and we'd find out all the diseases that happened to you over the next few decades. And if you want to opt out, then you can opt out. I think that we need medical records to be available to medical researchers, and then you will find things that matter. You'll find sort of odd cause and effect relationships. So anyway, I'd like the world to be made a bit easier for medical researchers. And I mean, ethics is all right. I like ethics, but I think we should recognise that if you ever have an ethics committee, you should never have an ethicist voting on it, because it's a direct conflict of interest. No ethicist ever made it big in life by saying there's no ethical problem. So, anyway, actually, no. Now, my brother said that all ethicists are vermin and should be shot, and that he was going to write a paper entitled Ethical Cleansing, but he was only joking. I don't know, just medical research is serious, the consequences are serious, and it's just ridiculous when you see things like, the increasing death rates from smoking in China. It's 1 million deaths in 2010, 2 million deaths in 2030, 3 million deaths a year in 2050. And actually, Prabhat said the statistic wrong. He said that I predicted 1 million deaths from smoking this century. I'd actually predicted 1 billion, and that's about what will happen if we keep on with the present uptake rates worldwide, because it's fine in Canada. Lots and lots of people have stopped, and lots of people haven't even started. But worldwide, worldwide, just tobacco consumption is going up still, and there's 1 billion smokers, and it's just silly when something like that kills half the people who do it. And anyway, so you'll have something to do with what happens. You just write and tell me what the death rates are in 2050. I'd like to know. I would like to thank the University of Toronto for this honour, and I'd like to wish all you lot luck. And lastly, I think it's actually the parents who should actually get the degrees, not the kids. It's the parents who do the hard work, and I'm telling you. So thank you very much indeed.